I'm standing at the Wing School, the site of laughter, learning over many years, and also a little bit of controversy. Today, the future here looks clearer with a new proposal of a senior living development. What's at stake at the March 23rd special town meeting? That's next on today's Takeaway. Hello again, Sandwich. I'm Greg Anderson. It's nice to see you again. Here we are in the original 1927 Wing School building. In fact, guys, I think this is Mrs. Wickland's former classroom. And she's down here. She let us in because we had to go through all of the back ways to get to this classroom, which is really cool. I am happy to have my two guests here to talk about this school and the project that we've been talking about for a while now, and it's really getting some legs here. Ralph Vitacco, Director of Planning and Economic Development for Sandwich, and Heather Harper, Assistant Town Manager. Thank you both for being here. Thank you. If you do need to use the restroom, we do have hall passes. I don't think the toilets work on this side of the building, but you still need a hall pass. So just...
That's good to know.
Okay, exactly. So let's break this down a little bit. Our goal ultimately is to make sure that what you are working on is explained and understood, and I know that that's your mission, and I appreciate the fact that you're taking this time to talk. So I'm going to kind of walk us through some of the elements of this project, but to contain some of the flurry of, oh my God, this is a done deal, this is really happening. Tell us where we are right now. Where are we as it relates to purchase, as it relates to commitment? Where are we right now with this project?
Because the Wing School is such an important part of Sandwich, we took a very unique approach in selling the Wing School. And if you recall, in May of 2018, Article 20 authorizes the selectmen to put out an RFP for the school. But unlike in the past where the selectmen were the decision makers, we bring that RFP back to town meeting to make the decision whether they want to approve the RFP and move forward or not. So really, that's why we're here, to provide information so the people at town meeting, which will be March 23rd, can make an informed decision as to whether they want to move forward with the RFP.
So what is the ask? When I'm sitting in that auditorium, right, what is the ask?
Right. The ask is, we received a proposal from SCG, and it is a 128-unit affordable senior complex. The ask is, do you want that? Along with that is, do you want that? In addition to that, SCG is asking for $2.65 million in CPA funds. So, and in return, just transactionally, right, in return, they'll be paying $1.265 million. But along with that, we have to ask, is it achieving the goals that the people at prior town meetings asked for, the Board of Selectmen have asked for, or the Sandwich community in general has asked for? Mm-hmm. Some of those goals being, preserve the Wing School. We achieved that with this RFP. Maintain the fields and the parking. We achieved that with this RFP. Take an aging building that has yearly maintenance costs, and most likely sometime in the very near future, a very large maintenance cost for a major facility. Get rid of that. That RFP achieves it. Put the property back on the tax roll. RFP achieves it. And I think really importantly, what people have been asking for many years is affordable housing for seniors in Sandwich.
Okay. Define affordable housing. What does that mean?
Affordable housing is housing that is affordable to those earning 80% or more or less of the area median income. So that's what the housing will be provided. So those that reside in our community in Barnstable County that earn the median income or less And so the rents that are charged for this facility will have to be at a level that meets the no more than 30% of their income on housing earning the area median.
So when we define, conversely, when we talk about market rate apartments, of which there'll be about 10% of this, and we're going to get a little bit more into the numbers, but how would you define market rate to people that are curious about this?
Right, market rate would be, say for a one-bedroom apartment, what would that be with no income restrictions if you were to go out into the general market say, well, how much does that cost? That's what they would be charging at the school.
And for the case of this project, it means that there are no income restrictions on those units. So those are available for people who may be on the margins, just above the income limit thresholds. They're likely not going to be wildly expensive units. They're going to be a similar rate structure to those that are there, but they are not the income limitations on there. You'll find, particularly in senior housing, that people move through those income ranges, so you may move into a market rate unit if you're lucky enough to get those 17 to 20 market rate units. And then as you spend down your resources, you may then, in fact, become eligible for an affordable unit.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a good opportunity for transition in the housing market.
Let's talk a little bit about the RFP process. It was last August of 2019 that you made your outreach. I think at the town meeting or forum you had said 25 was kind of your target list of operators or groups like SCG. Right. Two came in. One was Cape Collaborative and one was this one here. My question to you is, was that enough? How did you make a determination, and this kind of speaks to your confidence in their proposal, how did you make a determination that, okay, I think we're good, let's go forward with really the one?
Right. That's a good question. Not surprisingly, before we entered into the RFP process, I was reaching out to a couple of people who I've known in the community who really develop properties and asked them, you know, what can we expect? And, you know, I reached out to 2 or 3 people and they said, you know, Ralph, don't be surprised if you get a housing development coming in. So we were not shocked at that. When I went out to doing some of the marketing, we marketed it to a culinary collaborative. We marketed it to museums. These are developers who have done something like that before. But the real issue, which made it difficult for other developers and people who do this thing, is this is a lot of building. It's 144,000 square feet of building. You know, the people who have done it before had a cleaner palette to work with. And also, you know, how we said from the beginning, you know, that uniqueness of this RFP process made a few developers nervous.
Sure.
So they said, well, we have 2 hurdles.
Yeah.
We have to get past the selectmen and town meeting. So
if it was a cleaner pad, if it was a less clunky property and building, you might have had more.
And the good thing, it narrowed it down to people who really knew this building and knew how to work it. And what I mean by that is, you know, to take advantage of the building and to put forward a product that they can work with and that the town of Sandwich would be happy and proud to have.
So Heather,
Well, I just want to add to that, the process that the state requires communities to go through to dispose of properties like the Henry T. Wing School requires an analysis that would lead you ultimately to just one proposer to evaluate. So you're not going to evaluate the financials of one developer against the financials of another developer. The state really asks you to do a qualitative analysis of the development proposals initially to get you to one that you'll negotiate with. So the fact that there's just one, would it have been nice to have a couple to benchmark against? Yes, but does it change the outcome that you have a development proposal that's responsive and responsible and is a high quality developer? No.
So you are speaking with great confidence in this developer.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good, good. I just want to put that on the record, though you have stated that. Let's talk about the phases. Under the proposal, phase 1 will start in October of 2022.
Right.
And it will, at the end of 3 phases, be in 2025. So it's like a 5-year stretch.
Can I talk a little bit about what happens before that? There's an interim
Please.
development process that happens, and I think will add confidence to those folks that are wondering what happens next. So where we are now is we will hopefully have and expect to have, well before town meeting, an option to purchase agreement negotiated with the developer. And that just lays out the ground rules for both of us. It doesn't mean we must purchase it, but if town meeting gives us that authority, then we can move forward with the development. The developer then will have to develop and invest in, at their own risk, the plans and specifications, which are significant, present those plans and specifications to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a full review. They'll think about the traffic impacts, the environmental impacts, any of the aesthetic, all of those issues. We hope we have the framework of something that makes a lot of sense, but there's still a full review that needs to happen within the community, and there'll be plenty of opportunity for people to...
Over a long period of time
Well, we hope it will be a short period of time in terms of the local review, because they'll need to be in a position to make an application to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the federal government for tax increment financing.
Got it.
And that's another level of really rigorous review. And some of the things that give me confidence, one, that we do have a zoning board process that follows this so that there's even more community engagement in the design process, and building faith that what's going to happen is likely to happen. So a developer that isn't appropriately capitalized, doesn't have the resources, would not be able to come in, make the representations, and then hit the ground within several months to do all that development, pre-development and development work. And then the review at the state level. Remember that developers for comprehensive permits, so they're income limited. So there's only so much revenue that they can make off of a development.
Right.
Not only are they income limited, but they're limited in how much they can build a unit for and charge for that unit. So there's a tremendous amount of fiscal review that happens outside of the local government that necessarily provides those checks along the way. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do that too. We certainly will be evaluating that along the way. But there's a significant amount of rigor and responsibility that the developer has to go through in order to get the financing that will make the project viable.
So this is almost because of those hurdles, if you will, because of those multitude of steps that are here in town and state level.
Correct.
You got someone that's kind of putting skin in the game quite early.
Necessarily, yes.
And that kind of assures you that this isn't some group that's going to say, I think we're going to change it all and walk.
Right. And our confidence level with them is that they've done this before multiple times around the Commonwealth and the Northeast. They're a company that's been around for 30 years. Not only are they SCG as a development group, but they also have a capital funding side. So they're well aware of the capital needs and the finances involved in a project like this. And something that gave us a lot of confidence in this proposal is very close by, we can see their work. And we have been citing their work regularly, the Cody School in Bourne and the Simpkins School in Yarmouth. So what's really nice is that we can reach out to those towns, which we have, and ask them, what's your experience? Was good. How did the residents like it? They like it. Any trouble with those to develop it? None. So it really, fits. It fits a need in those communities done by a developer who knows what they're doing, and we were, again, fortunate enough to get 2 proposals, and and the one which we are recommended to move forward is someone who has done these type of projects before.
And just to reiterate, not to get ahead of ourselves, because the nature of this discussion is I'm going to get way out ahead of our skis, but there is a special town meeting, you are really presenting this formally to the town, the 2.65 million CPA funding, that's where we are right now. This is kind of the proposal, in true speak, and there's a lot of hurdles that this developer has to go through that involves a lot of input from
and if I may interrupt again, as I said earlier, town meeting, they are the decision makers. So, you know, everything which we have gone through previous RFPs, all the things we look at, we're doing our best to put that in a concise form and to lay it out to the voters so they can make an informed decision. And you're right, it's not exactly step one in the process, but it's one of the early steps.
Yeah.
And then the next step after that, depending on the outcome of town meeting, special town meeting on March 23rd, will be what are the subsequent steps. So,
Right.
and you know, the hope is that this project meets the goals that have been laid out, and the town is confident in the developer that can carry it out. And then again, we take the next steps. We look at, then I should go back, they start the comprehensive permit process,
Yeah.
which sort of, you know, we step back a little bit, they go through the state process, then it will come back to the town, to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay.
But, and if I may, this is a 40B project, you know, make no mistakes about it, it's a 40B, but it's a local initiative project, and the developer sees the partnership with the town. So if a positive vote is rendered on March 23rd, you know, the developer has told us, and he's going to reach out to the community to sort of explain the project to see what works. Mm-hmm. And you know, that's, and a local initiative is called the LIP, and that's when you have a friendly 40B, and that's, you know, that's the target.
Well, I have a couple questions about 40B, but I'm going to get to those in a second, because I'm really interested in hearing you talk about these phases. Let me just ask you first, how did this become 3 phases, not 2, not 4? How does that get created?
So that was the proposal of the developer, and that very much relates to their capacity to develop projects that will attract the tax investment financing investment tool that allows these to move forward. Okay. And they found that in their developments, that a development of about 44, 45 units makes sense, is attractive to the state, is attractive to the financing agency. They have the capital to build those. So they were comfortable proposing a phased project. It's something they've done on other sites. Yeah. So they took a look at our property and ultimately defined that there were 3 phases. They felt comfortable that the site at 6.2 acres could accommodate 128 units of housing, considering the massing and scale of the facility that's here now and what they might be able to accomplish. So they've built that out into 3 phases. And I'll have Ralph help me out with some of the numbers, but I can talk about those a little bit.
I'd love to have you just kind of walk us through phase 1. So that is starting October 2022.
If all of the ducks fall in the right row, that is the date, and that we hope that that will.
Okay, but demolition would all happen
within phase 1.
Within phase 1.
Right. So the value of the demolition, and it's good to talk about that for a minute. The ask from the developer is to make the site ready for affordable housing, and it's intended to make the site ready for 128 units of affordable housing, with the first phase being about 41 units. Okay. And so that first phase, as you know, the entire project preserves all of the playing fields, the gazebo, everything that happens that are such great amenities to the community. The parking area that we know is used for the 4th of July.
And importantly, I hate to interrupt, the 27 building, the building we're sitting in right now, gets preserved. Yeah.
And so you can see in light blue is the historic building that we're enjoying now. With the beautiful light that's coming in.
And hall passes will still work.
And hall passes will remain intact. The exterior facade will be preserved. They'll be seeking an historic preservation restriction from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the room that we're sitting in right now very well be somebody's new home.
Somebody's apartment,
so that's really pretty a neat thing. And with the beautiful amenities of light, could be community space, it could be a residential location. Yeah, sure. But they have a history with the Cody School and the Simpkin schools and other facilities across the Northeast, our development partner and they really view it as their specialty of accommodating these historic features in their redevelopment plans for affordable housing. And it's turned out to be great amenities because you have the great intersection of having community life happening in an area where there's a lot of youth and young people. So it's a nice opportunity for the community. Sure. So that first phase does preserve the historic wing building. Only a very small portion will be impacted, and that's by the demolition of all of the entire 1958 to 1974 structures, and
Everything will come down at once.
it hopes you get a chance to see some of the roof lines in this presentation today, but there's a lot going on there.
Sure.
So they've asked for $2 million to demolish the entire facility, existing wing school, with the exception of the 1927.
Right.
So that makes the entire site ready. It adds immediate value to the property by providing now an open site ready development site. The town has asked to develop the project in phases that allows us to retain. So phase 1 will move forward. We'll retain ownership of the land area, phases 2 and 3, so that we will harness the value of that investment by retaining those 2 additional lots. And then not until the next phases are capitalized, approved, permitted, ready to go, would we then transfer the remaining parcels.
So they buy as they go.
They buy as they go. We sell as we go.
We sell as we go, right.
But we have the immediate value of the site readiness of those properties.
Where in the 27 building, and I see historic building on there, which, we got to end this discussion about whether this building is historic or not. Right. It's historic.
It's 1927.
1927.
Yep.
We're in a historic district. Let's move beyond all that. So can you just give me a description of, for those who have had children come through and they know the room we're sitting in and the big open room up in the front, how will this be reconfigured? Will that community space be up at the front of the building? How could you describe that?
The classroom section of the wing school will be converted into 10 apartments.
Okay.
Okay. The multi-purpose room, it will be the community space. So that's about approximately 5,000 square feet. So that will be the community space, which can be used by the residents and also the community at large at Sandwich.
Yeah.
Just might add, they'll bring that room, bring it up to life, right? So you'll have the stage area will be restored. You'll have a nice facility for either theatrical performances, community meetings. The Simpkins School has their original school auditorium similar to this that was restored. It's a great place to be.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interaction, not just for the residents of the Henry T. Wing residences, but of the community at large.
Let's talk a little bit about the septic. We know out here it can get a little soupy at times, but you have demonstrated with great clarity, in my opinion, that phases 1 and 2 can be satisfied by the existing septic. It's phase 3 that you get into some augmentation and you get a little bit of change, and of course the wastewater discussion comes up. Right. For those people who say, oof, wait a minute, we're not going to have wastewater in 5 years, so are we going to get tripped up with a parcel of land, phase 3, that is going to now need a lot more work, therefore we're stuck with it, or are they really going to put the effort into it? How do you talk to those naysayers, if you will? Right.
Phase 3, as we said, is not exactly contingent upon the sewers coming down, but very, very close. So in our discussions with the developer, we've asked that question. So when we get to that point, as a town and as a developer, we ask, if there's no sewer, what do you still want to proceed with the 44 units? Sewer's not, the sewer is not there at this time. You will have to upgrade the wastewater on their dime, not on the town's dime,
right?
On their dime. The other question would be would we be satisfied if they do not build a 44 units? They may do a development that matches the remaining wastewater. So.
Oh, I see.
So that would be good. And the fourth possibility would be that we both mutually decide, both the town and the developer, that listen, phase 1 and 2 are working for us. Mm-hmm. Maybe we don't have to. Maybe there's not a need right now to develop phase 3. And at that point, we retain it. We retain a clean site, which in today's dollar value, about 2 acres over there, is appraised at $400,000 to $600,000. So there are several options down the road. I know we're looking at 5 years down the road, but when we did our analysis of it, And I have to say, you know, the developers were very forthright. We said, does this work? You know, does this work for us at 2 phases? Yes, it works better at 3 phases, but it works at 2 phases.
Right.
But you know, but we're all hopeful that you know that it goes forward with 3 phases.
The one takeaway I have on this entire conversation is the first time I've been involved in a development of affordable housing where the community was demanding more development. So I view that as a real positive that the community wants the use.
Yeah.
And that's really where this conversation starts.
Right.
In terms of the,
This could be a Costco otherwise.
in terms of the transactional value of this development, the site as it sits today is worth appraised at about $475,000. The developer is offering us $1.25 million for a site that's valued at $475,000. So that sort of wipes the slate clean in terms of the basic land transaction. The next part of the discussion is the development of affordable housing.
Right.
And that's where the $2 million CPA funding comes into question.
Have you received any pushback from anyone at Stop and Shop or in your office on the phone, email, any pushback about those CPA funds?
You know, people look at it, and the short answer is yes, because people look at it in you know, a very straightforward transactional equation, right? They're paying us $1.265 million, but we have to give them $2.65 million.
Right.
It doesn't add up. If you look at it as a straight, simple transactional equation, I understand the question and the angst. You know, we have to look at the bigger picture. What's the value added? Are we achieving the goals? What costs are we avoiding? What costs are we making? And that's part of this information that we want to get out to the public, so they could use all those, right? All those answers to help them in the decision-making process.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you just look at it in its simplest form, you're hesitant. It's
Right.
almost like doing your first grade math in high school math.
Well, and you're coming at a time where there's questions about the cost of the Santander Bank, and are we in the real estate business? Are we not in the real estate business? You know, and you're never really going to escape any of that. There'll always be those percolating issues.
Right.
Well, the one thing that I was really happy to see with the developers, they have a contracting partner that they're using, at least for the proposal, is Delbrook Construction, and that's a J.K. Scanlon, formerly J.K. Scanlon, who I've had years of experience with, a very reputable developer, as is Delbrook. And they gave us a pro forma for the first phase of the development, which included all the site work. And so we know the site work proposal that they gave us is a little over $2 million for the demolition work. We know that if we were going to go out on the market today and go through the public bid process, which we have very little control over, we'd be looking at an investment of close to $5 million to demo the school.
Yeah.
So having a contractor involved that has experience in the industry and experience in the region, I think that was a very smart move to bring that contractor in. They came and sat with us during the review panel discussion. So there's some confidence that the numbers that they have and they're proposing, along with their breadth of experience in the Northeast, gives us some sense that they can develop the project based on the scope that they've proposed.
Yeah. And you guys have the selectmen behind this proposal. You have
Yes.
FinCom behind this proposal.
Right.
Very few people want to stick their neck out on a bad deal, so everyone's going to do their due diligence. CPC as well.
And if I may, I just want to point out, you know, part of the proposal package was to the developer to provide audited financial statements. And if you've done anything in the commercial lending world, that's very important. Any bank in the world demands audited financial statements, and they were very forthcoming with that. And at the time, I could tell you, they were, you know, just because the way it was August and we started talking to them in September, October, we were, there was a 2018 financial statement which they didn't provide. We got that within 2 days. A audited financial statement within 2 days. And, you know, prior to this, I was a banker, and it's like pulling teeth to get audited financial statements from people. Yeah. And they, again, they're very transparent in their finances, and the ability to provide that to us so quickly gave us a high level of confidence. And if I may add also, that one on the review team was a retired commercial banker, president of a commercial lending institution here on Cape Cod.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this. What if 2.65 gets a no vote at the special town meeting? Now what?
That's an excellent question that we have contemplated. There are a couple of things that can happen. We're not saying the project doesn't move forward, but it's a fairly insurmountable hurdle for the developer to overcome. They need the site to be ready for development for them to proceed. We would get ourselves back together, take a look at what some of the options might be, and we can come back to another town meeting. But more than likely, it would be a reduced scope, possibly a different type of investment scenario. Many communities look at a simple outright donation of community land, and that's happening across the Cape on a routine basis, where communities are in fact purchasing land with CPA funds and then giving it, putting them out to bid for affordable housing. So the model that we have here is not unusual, but we are asking the developer to perform, I think, at a higher level than in some other developments. So we'll have to get back together and see what's next.
Yeah.
We're not going to throw them out. We're not going to kick them out, but we'll have to see whether there's room for something else.
We live in a what's in it for me culture, you know, kind of the, okay, if I sign off on this, what's in it for me? If you were to be talking to those in the auditorium at special town meeting, which you will, and any of those that you talk to now that do say, a lot of money, I'm with you on the transaction thing, I see the bigger, but really, what am I gaining out of this? How do you speak to that?
I think there are a few things. I think just in terms of the overall housing market and housing supply in the region, it's important to recognize that Sandwich has the most homogeneous housing supply on the Cape in terms of the diversity of housing. So you have more single-family homes per capita than any place on Cape Cod. So the diversity of housing types and having an opportunity to provide diversity for the population of the community, I think is important. So I'm not saying this is going to resolve all of the housing issues for every demographic in the community, but it does provide some relief for seniors who want to move into a smaller scale housing, hopefully liberating the homes that they live in for perhaps young families to take advantage of. So that's one.
See the cycle go through.
Yeah, you know, that's the ideal.
Yeah.
Certainly what keeps me up at night are the concerns about the capital needs of the community and particularly the school system. You know, we have a lot of buildings that have some significant needs. This building is well beyond its useful life. It has not been really invested or cared for the last 6 years since the town moved out of the school. The community determined very clearly that they are looking to move beyond this building. So it really provides a tremendous relief in terms of potential future capital needs to sustain the building. There are ongoing operational costs to support the operations, even in its state now. Ralph did a great job the other night outlining there's over $500,000 a year that's needed just to keep the lights on in this building. We are lucky to have a tenant here that helps offset those costs.
Yeah, sure.
A tenant we're happy to have as long as they can stay here.
Yeah.
So those are important things that will help provide some flexibility for school operations. If they can liberate some of the expenses they're spending on the wing school to put them into the academic programs that are so in need of budgetary sustainability. The playing fields that will remain here, having active life around those fields is a really wonderful thing.
Yeah.
The amenities that will be available to the public with the performance area and community meeting space, and simply having 128 plus individuals in walking distance of downtown, and hopefully all of their families that have come to visit are part of the economy and life of the community. So I think there's a lot of positives here. The town meeting members have to feel comfortable that we're being good custodians of their land and their finances. But I think there's a lot here to be happy with.
So you have 128 units.
Right.
We're looking at 90% out of all 3 phases, 90% will be affordable.
Right.
Is it 90% of phase 1, 90% of phase 2, 90% of phase 3?
That's pretty much how it breaks down. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you explain quickly, because I know we're running out of time, but can you explain quickly how the affordability works? If I'm looking at this for my mother, my grandmother, and I'm thinking, I think we want to do this, how does the affordability math work?
So it's based on income, and there are 2 tiers in the affordable apartments. There's a block of apartments set for 30% of annual mean income, Barnstable County annual mean income, and there's another block of apartments set for 60% and below of annual mean income. So through the comprehensive permit, it will be decided that the people who are awarded those apartments go through a lottery system. So
it will be a lottery.
It will be a lottery system because of the Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD. Now I could refer to it as DHCD for the rest of the show. Is that those are their guidelines.
Okay.
And as an affordable housing development, we go by those guidelines.
Tell me about the residential requirements. Do you have preferential placement or priority if you are a resident of Sandwich? I know Barnstable County is the discussion, or it's part of that. Can you explain that?
Right. Based on DHCD, it's 70% of the county. So they don't, it can't be town specific because it's under their guidelines. That doesn't qualify as fair housing practices. So it's 70% of the 70% of the county. But what in side conversations with the developer, if you think about it, it's a great majority of those 70% will be people who live from the town of Sandwich, or even Bourne or Mashpee. You think about it. It's for senior housing. If you're a senior, do you really want to put yourself in a lottery for something that's far away from your family, from which your shops, your friends? So a lot of the lottery, by the nature of what it is, will draw on local residents.
So the requirement for this model, for the developer is what, 20% affordable in the deal, but they are upping it to the 90%. Are my numbers right there?
The permit process, the comprehensive permit requires the 20% affordable. The development proposal that we are engaging with is 80%, a minimum of 80%.
So
and they will be providing more than that.
So why are they going higher? I mean, we can probably understand there's a need for affordable, God knows there's a need for affordable senior housing, but how did they come up with that 90%, 80%? That seems much higher than required.
I would assume that's based on their business model and tax credits that they go out to when they go out to the debentures to see what they can get. So it maximizes their ability to get tax credits and get financing to move this project, or any other projects that they have forward.
Sure.
We may have talked about this a little bit earlier, but it certainly provides an opportunity for those that may not be income qualified today, but could be in the future.
Yeah.
So it provides a nice pathway for those that may not income qualify for the affordable units to get a place and then possibly take advantage of the income qualified units at some point. And that is part of really their business model as well. They want to make sure they have a steady stream of folks that they know qualify. It's quite a process every year to go through that qualification process.
Sure.
It's a regulated process.
So what we know about the design, let's say this is all done, we're going to be looking at some community space in the 1927 building.
Right.
We're going to be looking at largely 1- and 2-bedroom apartments.
Right.
There will be no dining. This is not what one would consider assisted living or any services. However, they will have a staff, so there will be clearly someone there to help with leasing, perhaps someone that's going to be running the building, maintenance. They'll have all of that. You're confident in this as an operation from what you've learned of their operator. you know, again, I'm getting over the skis here.
Yeah.
We're not in operations talk yet, but you must have some confidence that when these guys do what they do in terms of this transaction, that they're actually going to run a decent building.
I
Go
think
ahead.
based on their experience in our neighboring communities of Bourne and Yarmouth, that they are operating facilities that continue to be well maintained, that residents are satisfied with the quality of life in those facilities.
Yeah.
And the amount of amenities that they may provide are likely to grow as the phases move forward. So the more residents they have, the more likely you'll see more expanded services. But what we look at this point in the development is the development pro forma, which includes both what does it cost to build the development, but how are they going to operate it, and what is the annual capital available? So that's what we look
Right.
at now. We know of Choice. We don't know them personally.
Sure.
That's a firm that SCG is confident in, but really that will be a rigorous review that happens more through the state review process to ensure that they are in fact partnering with a team that has the capacity to operate the facility over the long term.
I want to ask you a couple of minute or very specific questions. At the forum recently, somebody had brought up the courtyard in the original wing building. Clearly, you're not going to own the building. We hope that they make some good decisions. What shoulder can we put behind this to make sure that there's some preservation or transplant? I mean, have you guys thought about that at all?
You know, that was the first time we heard that concern, and we are going to be speaking with the developer about it. And you know, I have to say they're very responsive to us, and if we had a concern, in relation to that, I think we could, or they, you know, could come up with a program to present to us about that. I don't think it's a big ask. You know, but you know, that's something we'll be bringing up with the developers.
I think what they could do is like demolish everything but that, and just leave it standing. We'll deal with it later.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll prune them in a little bit, but there's definitely, in all seriousness, that's that impacted students who were involved in that, teachers that were involved in that. The landscape architect is widely known and respected. So it may seem like a small item in all of this, but it's definitely one of those heart
if
things.
I may, again, this building in and of itself has a tremendous connection to the town itself. And I would like to say, if I could sort of speak to what SEG has done in at the Cody School, is they create public areas like that for their residences. They put in a new, you know, sort of a new courtyard. They might not be aware of it. Honestly, I knew it was there. I didn't think about it. You know, my kids went to sandwich schools, but they went to Forestdale.
Yeah.
So we've just sort of passed through the sandwich school. So I don't have that specific connection to it, but it's something we could bring up, and I think that's, you know, something that may benefit both of us in moving forward.
Sure.
So not only can I say Paul Moskowski's name, I know him personally, so I've worked with Paul.
Wonderful.
I know what kind of person he is.
Yeah.
I think that would be a project that more than likely would have to happen before we transfer the property to SEG, although they may be willing to be partners with us on that. But it sounds like something we could coordinate before the demolition occurs, is to perhaps preserve some of those plantings, think about where that type of garden may happen in the future. Paul's a really wonderful person and landscape designer, and hopefully we can develop a plan to honor the work that was done in the courtyard.
Wonderful.
I don't know where that exists on the site.
What it looks like,
but-
exactly.
but,
Sure.
The idea of preserving plantings, I think, is a really wonderful idea.
So let me ask you this. You're in kind of wrapping this up a little bit, and I'm interested if there's anything that you want to bring up. I'll give you 10 seconds, but if you still want to have anything else brought up, that's fine. But in all seriousness, when you're looking at that special town meeting, March 23rd,
Right.
what are you expecting? What do you think the audience is going to be coming with? Do you think that I mean, you're doing an education outreach on many different levels, but you also have people that are challenging town hall at every moment. What do you expect? What are you thinking?
I expect two camps. Ralph's phone has been ringing since August with people knowing when they can sign up to become a resident. So I think there's a part of the community that's really excited about it, that's interested in having this type of housing. In fact, there's probably 3 camps. The second will be those that are really interested in the fiscal integrity of the entire development proposal, and I think those are really legitimate concerns. And the third, I think, are community members that see continued investment in the senior population and not for young people. And I think that's a really important argument that we need to make, that while the housing that's being created here does support seniors, the redevelopment of this site supports fiscal sustainability for the health and wellness of both the current school system and the community at large. Yeah. And that's the way I hope people can look at it. And I know that's difficult because we've made investments recently in the Center for Active Living and now this project. But this really is more about fiscal sustainability over the long haul for both the local government and the school department.
And you're going to have people that are, kind of like what Bob King said at the at your forum. Yeah. This is about investing in our community in ways beyond a math equation. That it is about looking forward into our community. Anything else? Anything else you guys want to bring up?
All I could say is, at town meeting, you're the decision maker. Have an open mind, listen, ask pointed questions. Try to be as dispassionate as you can, because there's a lot of passion around this building. Yeah. But and that's all I ask. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to bring up, Heather?
Join us on March 23rd.
Okay, all right. Thank you both for this. I'm a Washer Shore, so I got about 8 years in Sandwich, but I have always been impressed with people who actually take the time to say, okay, here's a clunky, complicated situation, but let's unpack it a little bit. Let's make it make sense. So I appreciate your time in really explaining this, and hopefully it will be helpful to people who are watching and on YouTube and on social media to help spread the word of the facts that are.
If I may add one more thing.
Of course.
At that point, if from now till town meeting, if anyone has a question on what we've talked about, or any questions on anything on this development, please give the planning office a call, and we will do our best to answer them at that moment, or if we don't have the answer, we'll get back to them right away. And our number is 508-833-8001.
You realize that you just gave your personal cell phone number out.
I did. That's okay. It rings anyway. I don't carry it with me as Paula.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Ralph Fataco, Director of Planning and Economic Development. Heather Harper, Assistant Town Manager for the Town of Sandwich. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And as we said earlier, March 23rd, 7 o'clock, the high school auditorium. It is your time, your chance to show up and really ask questions, but also learn with your community how this can be a wonderful thing, as these two fine professionals have explained to you. Share this on social media, share it with your neighbors and friends. Hopefully it is that educational piece that will make the puzzle look a little bit clearer. I'm Greg Anderson. I'll see you soon. Thanks.